Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. I hope you're having an amazing day. And today I am so excited to bring to you Damion Lupo, who is a seasoned entrepreneur who has launched and grown over 70 companies from zero to 100 million throughout a remarkable 25-year journey. In addition to being a prolific author with 12 published books, Damion is celebrated for his extraordinary achievements in building multiple companies from the ground up, many of which have reached seven, eight, and even nine-figure valuations. Despite a significant setback that saw him lose a $20 million portfolio at the age of 30, Damion's resilience and determination led him to not only overcome homelessness, but also rebuild his wealth beyond nine figures. Today, Damion is a driving force in transforming the retirement landscape with his groundbreaking retirement plan system and revolutionizing the home and apartment construction industry through his pioneering work with Frametec. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Frametec.
Frametec. Okay. All right. Wow. You've been busy, Damion.
Been busy. I feel like I need a nap just listening.
Wow. I don't know where to begin. You've done so many different things. It is amazing. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about your retirement landscape.
Yeah,
What is that?
so this started off about just over a decade ago, and it was interesting. It's not something I really knew much about. It was there's a most people think of retirement, they think about 401ks and IRAs. And I had a guy that came to me and said, "Hey, I want to use my retirement account to buy some silver because I have a precious metals company." And I said, "That's cool. Seems like a good way to use some of your money and take it out of Wall Street." And he was all excited, and I got deep into it and realized, wow, I bet you a lot of people would like to know about this. So I went deeper and deeper and then built this entire company called the EQRP company that gives people the ability to take their 401ks and IRAs and go buy things like gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, startups, like all that kind of stuff. And it started off as this journey to solve a problem I saw a lot of people having, including my own parents. Like my dad, I remember watching him retire and watching his money go away, and he didn't really know that he had these other options, and he played by the rules and ended up dying broke. And that was hard to watch. And I realized that was pretty common, unfortunately. So the EQRP company was born and built to give people a chance to design their future, their financial future, and so they're not just hoping that something will turn out. They actually are in charge of it, and we've built that into several thousand people that are part of the community that now work together. They learn together. They do deals together, and they invest in things that are not just a bunch of smoke, which is what a lot of Wall Street is.
Yes, I'm loving it because, like you just mentioned, most people in retirement, they don't know that they can do these things. They just let that money sit there and live off of it and not realizing money is like water. You have to keep replenishing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown. It's funny, we're in the world of misinformation and malinformation and all this stuff. And
Yes,
there's another one, it's called missing information. People just don't know. And
right.
it's there. And so that I wrote a book called the QRP book that people can get a copy of if they go to qrpbook.com. They can get I'll just FedEx it to them. And it really gives people the information that's been hidden and held back, because there's really no reason for Wall Street to ever tell people, like financial advisors, why would they say you can take your money and go somewhere else and invest in things that I don't get fees on? So usually if you look at where the money's flowing, you realize why you have certain information. And this is a way to empower people so that they can have the information that gives them all the choices versus the limited choices that make somebody else rich.
Yes, and I'm loving it. Wow. Now, as someone who has faced adversities and turned it into an opportunity for growth, what advice can you give other people?
I can tell you from failing more than anybody I know. I mean, and people have different stories of failure. We've all had things that didn't work. Just over my entire life, I realized that all these failures, none of them ate me. they might hurt. They usually do hurt to some extent, but the fear around the failure is one of the beautiful things about practicing failure is you get to a point where it doesn't bother you. The idea of your next choice being something that's going to fail, it doesn't even phase you. You say, okay, we're going to go do this because I think this is right. And when it doesn't work, you go, interesting, that's the way it doesn't work. And then you go try something else. So it's the biggest value in failing faster and failing forward, as John Maxwell talks about in his book, Failing Forward, is that you build up this vision or this resiliency around the idea of failure, and it stops holding you back and you start moving a lot faster. But when we're concerned, like as kids, we're taught you got to get good grades, otherwise you're a failure. And I laugh and I think, man, if as kids, 50% meant we were a failure. In the real world, if you get 50% right, shoot, if you get 30% right, you're a freaking billionaire. So the system is not telling us the truth. It's trying to keep us in a box.
And you're so right. Because I mean, I remember going through some different failures, and at first I felt so bad. But now, when they happen, I put on my thinking cap. Okay, that didn't work. Now what? How can I make it work? And it becomes a challenge.
And I think that's a healthy way to look at it. And that's how you move and grow. The worst possible thing is saying, well, I'll just wait and see what happens, or I'll hopefully it'll get there. Like when people become obsessed with the outcome versus falling in love with the process and learning and growing. And one of the things that I know for certain is that there's two things in the universe. There's growth and there's expanding and contrasting. So either you're growing or dying. And when you're doing things, you're like we're meant to be in motion. We're not meant to sit idle. Like that's why retirement is such a goofy concept. We're not built, we're not here, we're not put on earth so that we can go sit on a beach and stare at the sunset for the next 30 years. Like that is not why God put us here. Like we were meant to produce and serve. And so when you really embrace that, then you're busy saying, okay, what's the next thing that I'm going to do? And then there is meant to be a day every week where you take a break, but it's not seven of them. And so like really going out there and doing the thing. And I think when you're on course, you get nudges and you get feedback. Like one thing I know for certain is I'm not meant to skydive. I've gone jumping 4 times. I had 3 accidents, and on the fourth jump, the space shuttle exploded over me.
Oh,
So
wow.
wrong hobby, bad. And I think that was feedback from the universe when a couple jumps, I lost my arms, and then the third jump, my chute failed and I had to cut loose. So all this feedback keeps happening, and if we pay attention, if we're awake and conscious, we get nudges. And I think that the universe is really telling us which direction to go and maybe sometimes to stop. And sometimes it's like, wow, this is flow. This like feels easy. That probably means you're on track. Like you're getting tailwinds. So being conscious to things and then not taking it personally is one of the greatest things that any of us can do.
You ain't never lied, Damien, because that's so true. Definitely like how you put that. So let's talk a little bit about Frametec. Um, Tell us what Frametech does.
So Frametech is solving the housing crisis. Right now, we've got 8 to 10 million units, houses, and apartments that are needed and are not being built. And it's not because, and you can't have somebody in politics say we're going to magically just build houses. Like it takes a lot of energy and it takes talent, it takes manufacturing. And so we've got this gap. And the problem is nothing has really evolved. There's not much innovation. Last innovation in construction was the nail gun in 1954. That was 70 years ago. So a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, some guys came to my partner and I and said, we have this idea. We want to build the future of framing. We have an idea that would innovate, and it would speed things up by 4 times the current rate of building framing, the bones for houses and apartments. It would speed it up 4 times. It would reduce 90+% of the waste, and we'd have a 10 times better product at the same cost. And we said, we are listening. Let's talk. And so we heard the story. We met the team, and the most important thing of that, the idea was cool, but there's a lot of cool ideas. The question is, who's going to actually make this idea turn into reality? And the team was led by seasoned veterans that have been doing this stuff in this space for 50 years. And so
Wow.
it wasn't like somebody says, I got a great idea, and then they're learning on the job. These guys had been doing this job for half a century. So we said yes, and now the plant is coming online right now this month as we're recording, and we'll be up and everything will be running by the end of 2024. And what this means is that we're able to build houses and apartments way faster without the environmental damage, and we provide a better quality product. We need about 1,000,008 units per year. We're building about 1,000,002. So every year we're going backwards, and we have a bigger and bigger deficit and a gap. Frametech helps solve that. And as we expand, our second plant is in under construction. And as we keep expanding these, we keep helping to solve the problem. That's the big thing that I hope people will take away. Go build something, solve a big problem with building something. Don't build something as a monument to your ego, but build something that's a monument to every all the gifts that you've been given and all the opportunity you have to tap into your potential. Find something that serves a ton of people. And that's what Frametech does. Literally serves the communities, serves the shareholders, it serves the environment, and it helps humanity because I think the more we do that, people are always talking about how they want world peace. And I'm like, you know how you get world peace? You create more prosperity. People don't go to war when they're prosperous and when things are going well. They go to war and you have violence because people are scared, they're hungry, they don't have opportunity. That's what this is all about. It's about showing people a model for something that works and creates more peace and more prosperity.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, Damien. We were not put here for ourselves. We were put here to serve, to be in service. And no matter, what we're doing, it needs to benefit humanity. And at the end of the day, when we start looking at each other as humans, our whole thinking, the whole world thinking will instantly change. It will instantly change.
I couldn't agree more. I always laugh when people talk about the differences and these wars that were going on. And I said, some people might actually think Canadians are bad or something, but the reality is America is never going to go to war with Canada because it's our neighbors. And when you start looking at people as your neighbors, because we're all on the same planet, and you start to humanize humans instead of making people out to be villains, so you can go and go to war, and that's local wars, and we really need to look at people as our brothers and sisters
Yeah,
and not as adversaries because they might be different in whatever way that is. And so when you think about serving people, it really changes the energy. Like there is an energy, an energy of hate. When somebody hates you and you're around them, you can feel it. When somebody loves you, you feel that too. So serving is very loving. It's the closest thing that I think we ever get to in terms of getting close to the energy of our creator. And so I really appreciate when people have a heart of service, like you're talking about, like the way that you are and your energy. That's what we need more of. If there's one thing, it's people finding ways to serve other people.
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, my blood could save your life, and your blood could save mine. And
Yep.
we've all made of the same material on the inside. We might have our outer look may be different. Our needs are the same: shelter, food, water. We all want to be able to take care of our families. That's a universal need.
There's something that I heard, and I forget where it originally came from. It's some very smart psychologist probably, but Tony Robbins had this in one of his books, and I've carried it. I put it in one of my books, talked about these things, and when I wrote Reinvented Life after I lost $25 million and was trying to figure out the point of humanity and life itself, these six human needs, which are, I mean, the core ones, you're talking about food and shelter, and that there's a lot of emotional needs we have. For example, love and connection. If we
Mhm.
don't have those things, we basically wither up and die. We need to have significance and contribution. We need to, there's things we need certainty and variety. If you're missing these things, like people love to have variety, but then they're not stable. And then some people sit at home and they have a very stable world, but it's very boring. And so like we need the yin and the yang, if you will, and things like contribution. When people have a job and they go punch a clock and then they come home, and I've seen this a ton with government employees where they punch a clock and they're literally like, my dad was like this. In 15 years, I get a pension. And I was like, wow, that is not serving anything. You're literally just going and waiting to be given things instead of, like, there's this entitlement there. When people shift into a place of contribution, how do I contribute to other people? They have a heart that's open to loving other people. It's really interesting how there's a fulfillment versus what most of society is obsessed with is success. Like, I'm going to get this much money and then I'll be happy. I'm going to get a bigger house, then I'm going to be happy. I'm going to get a shinier car, whatever the heck it is. I'm going to get a new spouse, then I'll be happy. And I'm like, no, love your spouse, deeper. And like, we're looking at things the exact opposite, and a lot of that has to do with the agenda of things that are coming at us, all the marketing and what we think is going to make us happy. And the reality is, and I've been guilty as sin of this for many years, it was like the faster cars and the more stuff and the more money. And when what's here, the craziest thing is when you shift to service and tapping into your potential, the money stuff happens as a side effect. It doesn't happen on your timeline, but it does happen. And the deeper you go and trust more in the process, it's unbelievable how there's this Niagara Falls of abundance, and you could never plan that on purpose. You just and when people do, it backfires because that is not what we're meant to do. We're not money bees. We're not supposed to be chasing money. We're supposed to be creating ways to have honey happen and cross-pollinating things. And there's an intention, and being clear on the intention is where it all starts.
Yes, you that absolutely, absolutely. Because I always say, take the money away and work with the passion. Because what happens, that's how you know you really are in the space you belong in.
And the trifecta, or there's this beautiful thing when you find purpose and passion.
Hmm.
What the dangerous thing I've seen with some people is they get very very excited about something, but it's not really serving other people. It's just really fun. And I go, okay, I appreciate the passion with what you're doing, but what are you actually doing for other people? They're like, oh, I'm having a good time doing this thing. I'm like, okay, fun is that's more leading. Like, I think some people, I was one of these like 20 years ago. It was like very fun, very hedonistic. And I'm like, I got passion all over the place. I was like oozing passion, but the purpose was more money. And so the question is always, all right, with that passion, what's the purpose for other people? And I think when you get those two together, there's magic because you get fired up. But the truth is, it's not always easy. And if you have, I've seen people that have had passion about something, it gets hard, and they're like, oh man, I'm gonna go do something else because this sucks. This is a grind. Purpose, I found by myself and other people, when there's a deep, bigger purpose, even when it's hard, you still get up excited to do it. And like you're fired up because you're serving something outside of yourself. And that's the big shift.
Yes, you that's so true, Damien. That is so true. Wow. This is definitely, I didn't see this coming, Damien. But I'm glad we're talking about this because it matters. It really does matter. That you are in service. And I believe it's part of leadership. If you can't roll up your sleeves and get dirty with the team, it's you got to serve before you leave, I believe.
And a lot of times people mistake the skills or the way that you say things as leadership. And when you're the leader, it's obvious. I told one of the guys that works with me last year, he said, I want to be president. And I said, all right, I'm good with you wanting to be president. When everybody knows you're president, we'll give you the title. And it was interesting because that's exactly what happened. He went out there and did exactly what he'd been doing, and he pushed it to a higher level of service. And then it was very clear who was in charge, and it was very easy. It's the same thing when I was training in martial arts for many decades. And I very early, after 4 or 5 years, I went to my sensei and I said, am I testing for the black belt? He said, you're going to demo. And I said, do you think I'll pass? And he said, you're already a black belt. This is just for fun. Enjoy it because you've already earned it. You're already a black belt. And I said, oh, that's awesome. And that's the way it is. People that are, and I remember in high school wanting to be the president of the, not of the country, but of like my high school class or different things. And I thought titles were the most important thing. And as I got older, I realized titles are actually dangerous if that's what you think and you're not actually living it, because people see right through the title, and then you're a hypocrite, and there's hypocrisy that doesn't serve anything, and it makes everything harder. So
Yes.
unfortunately, that tends to be a lot of ego. And when you check the ego and you deliver, everybody knows who's the leader.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Okay, let's talk about your investment opportunities. There's so much to talk about with you, Damien. Tell us some of the vehicles that you provide for your clients.
Well, what we do is there's a couple of things. We've got, like with Frametec, that's a huge opportunity for people to be a part of the future of construction. And we believe that that's one of the best, it's the best investment that I've ever seen in my entire life that I've either been a part of or seen elsewhere. So that's one thing. What's really unique about what we do with our community is we have the community is allowed to share their deals with each other. And so people are able to see all sorts of things, from apartments to startup businesses to funds that do, there's an unlimited amount of things that people can invest in. And so we give our community the chance on the platform to share what they're doing, and then they can dive into it. So it's kind of cool because it's not us just saying, okay, the only thing that you can do is what we share with you, which is really what financial advisors do.
Mhm.
We say, look, you guys are going to be smarter. The group is going to be smarter than any one person. And we want you guys to be able to learn and do these things together. So that's the EQRP's system. And ultimately turnkey retirement is all about people being able to come together. We're not nearly as strong individually as we are as together. And that's the unique sauce, if you will, for this community. It's unlimited amounts of opportunities. And we, if you will, we lead by example of creating really great opportunities and then almost forcing people to have to compete. And I think when you create something and you raise the bar, it helps everybody raise their bar and they get better, and then everybody's served at a higher level. So ultimately, I think that's what we are doing and what we've done so far, and everybody wins.
Absolutely. And that's what it should be. Win-win. Win-win. So, how do people connect with you and get involved with all these different things you got going on?
The best thing for people to do, I think that simple direct, it's turnkeyretirement.com. And the reason you go in there is because you're gonna be able to see, like I've done a mastermind for our community. You're gonna be able to access that. With the latest one that's on there is a video where I'm teaching about the 19 different things that I look for in deals, the landmines, if you will, that'll help you lose all your money. And this is the way you avoid those. So you're not like Damion losing $20 million. I promise that's not fun. And so it's that you can watch the video, and you can also download the ebook that goes through those things and gives you data and information, and gives you a checklist for really any investment or any business you're going to be involved with, so that you can avoid some of those dodo bird moves that I've done.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That is amazing because I'm telling you, if I had money for all the dodo stuff I did, I'd be rich now. I'm telling you, and to have somebody, and then that's what's important is that you teaching through your experiences.
I agree with that. And that's actually the only people that I'll listen to anymore are people that have gone through it. Like it's like if you want to be really fit, you don't go to somebody that's 600 pounds sitting on the couch eating Twinkies, and you don't ask somebody that's broke and homeless for their advice on money. And people do that in different ways. They go to their parents, they go to their neighbors, and they have these conversations. And those people generally don't know what the people that have had deep success and have gone through the process know. So it's really important to vet the source of your information. And TikTok is probably not the best way to do it. There's a lot of information, but the question is that from experience, or is that just a really good way to present information that gets people following? So
Mhm.
that's critical. Figure out who you're listening to before you start listening.
Oh, yeah, definitely gotta be careful who you listen to. That's for sure. So you talked about the importance of having a network of experienced and committed individuals when you're investing. So how does that get built? How do you leverage? How do you effectively do that?
It's a great question, and it comes up all the time. People are trying to figure out that how do you have a group of people that can help you do the thing that you're doing? Well, you find a way to serve them, and the best way to do that is find something where you can create a community out of it. And it could be a million different things. For us, it was something that I saw, and it was very personal. I saw this gap in the market where people needed to know what information or what options were out there for investing their retirement money. And so you serve thousands of people. And how do you do that? You start with one, and then you get feedback, and you do better and better. Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to sell the same thing over and over," you got to keep disrupting yourself. And
Mm,
so ultimately, how do you end up with this network? Well, you go find ways to serve people, and you do it in a transactional relationship. So people can love you, and you can get a million likes, but one of the things that's interesting is a lot of people like Taylor Swift. She's got what 280 million people that follow her or something. The thing that's also true is she has a relationship and there's a transaction. So people aren't just saying they like her; they're shelling out thousands of dollars, a year for Taylor Swift stuff. So if you could, that's how the market's going to tell you the truth.
mhm,
If somebody just says, "Yeah, that's really great," but they actually don't want to buy your thing, that's also feedback that you need to know. And so finding a way to do things for people where they're willing to exchange money for the thing you're doing is going to give you the feedback, and it's going to create trust. If somebody just likes you but they're not actually interacting with you in the market, you don't really know if they're really trusting you. They're sort of trusting you from afar because there's no threat that you can actually hurt them. that's what the 10, 12 years ago when I started doing this stuff with the retirement accounts, that's what it was. It was, I'm going to prove to you, we'll do this thing, I'll help you, I'll build this for you. And then over the years, serving them, not just for a minute, getting their money and then running off. It was really serving them over and over, month after month, year after year. 10 years later, people go, all right, we have deep trust. And that's what Stephen Covey was talking about in his book, The Speed of Trust, was all about how easy business is and life is when everything's built on trust. Trust takes time. It's not something you get because somebody likes the way you look or they like the way you smell or they like the words out of your mouth. You want deep trust, you got to serve people for a period of time. That's how you have a network that will go anywhere you go.
All right, now that's so true. Trust is the number one ingredient for sure, because people do business with people they like and trust
That's right.
for sure, and that is definitely a true statement. So with Frame Tech, what is the, if you can tell me, what is actually, how are you, what do I want to say? What are you doing that's making it better in the construction world in
Well,
terms
the first process, and this is a patented process because it's very unique. It's a material handling process, and what we're doing is, so normally when you build a house or apartment, you get these like 10-foot boards, and you need an 8-foot two piece. So you cut off almost 2 feet of wood, and you throw it away, and you have all this waste. And it's in the field, it's in the rain and the wind and the sun. And so what we've done is we've said, okay, first off, we're not going to cut off 2-foot pieces. We're going to join every board together, so it's like one continuous infinite board. And we do that through the technology of finger joinering. What happens is we cut our boards exactly to the length that we need them. And so we have sawdust and corner cuts, if you will, that's the only waste. So we have this exact, we can buy virtually any size wood and then joiner the boards together. So that in and of itself is a massive improvement because we don't have the waste. We have this efficiency. We don't have to buy 12-foot boards. We can buy all the 6-foot boards, whatever we have the ability to buy at the best prices. So that process by itself is massively more efficient and a lot less waste. That's where the core, the material handling process is a core thing. Nobody's done it before. It's people don't disrupt themselves when they're making a bunch of money most of the time. Technology does because they know somebody else will disrupt them. But construction is one of those industries where it's kind of like education. It doesn't evolve very fast. Education and construction are the two industries that vie for the slowest evolution. I mean, literally, it's terrible. They don't do anything. So there's you see these problems. You see dumpsters full of wood. You see a lack of supply. Why is housing so expensive? It's a lack of supply. If you had more supply, the prices would drop. That's a natural thing with economics. You cannot will that in by decree, by a politician. You have to have more supply. So part of this is we're going to say we can produce thousands and thousands and thousands of units to increase supply. Well, that we're part of the solution because more supply means it's more affordable. So when people say we're gonna require affordable housing, I laugh. I'm like, what you're gonna do is you're gonna create shortages. When you require it from a government's position, when you say, okay, we're going to reduce regulations, and I'm talking regulations, a lot of the red tape. I'm not saying you can let people do whatever they're going to do. They're going to destroy the rivers or something. I'm saying there's a lot of junk, like trying to build, for example, in California would be an absolute nightmare. I know people that have done it and then they moved to Texas. They go, forget California. Loved it in a lot of ways, but doing business there was brutal. And so what we're doing is we're finding places that want to be in harmony with us versus conflict. And we're using this technology to deliver what's missing in our system. And housing it's like we were talking about the basic needs, the shelter. It's a huge one. And
yes.
we have a lot of missing primary needs in society because the shelter is not being built. So our system does that, and it's the handling process, and then we vertically integrated. So we do all the building of these boards and these walls and the trusses, and then we take all that stuff and we frame it. So a house, like you give us plans for a house, and you would have a framed house in 2 weeks, and that's crazy fast. It's a better quality by about 10x, and there's no reason somebody would say we want somebody else. Everybody's going to want to have Frametec.
Yes, and does that equate to lower prices for the buyer?
Yeah, because and one of the ways that happens is if it takes the builder months less time to build, it doesn't cost them as much to build it because time is money. You're borrowing money, you're building. And so when we can cut out months of that process, then they can compress the pricing. They can be more competitive. That's why builders, one of the reasons builders are going to want it. Plus, they have a better quality product, so they're able to sell a better quality product. Well, better quality products, you can either charge more or you can say I'm charging the same amount for a better quality. Well, like if somebody's saying a Lexus or a Toyota and it's Lexus is the same price as the Toyota, they're probably going to take the luxury. And so there's natural economics that go on board. What we're doing is we're saying we're going to do it so much better and do it more efficiently that it's just an obvious it's obvious obviously beneficial to everybody.
Yes, and how do people connect with that? Because I'm sure we might be having some builders listening to this. You don't never know.
Absolutely. Frametech, is the site. You can see all the stuff there. And it's if you're curious, there's a 6 minute video and you go to whatisframetech.com and you'll see the 6 minutes of really what we are, what we're doing. It's some drone footage of the plant, meeting with people. And there's a little video, it's kind of a documentary, and you'll see the innovators and the people running this thing and bringing it to life.
Wow, this has been amazing, to say the least. Make sure I have all of your handles so that way we can get all of this information out to our viewers and listeners. Wow, I just love your spirit, Damien. I really do.
Thank you.
You are a blessing to humanity, to
Thank you
say
very
the
much.
least, for sure. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to do this today. It was definitely appreciated. We touched on a lot of things, and you definitely left me with something to simmer on for the rest of the day, as well as our audience. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.